Hello again. Here I am with Charlie Greenberg of your travel agency, and we just finished talking about the potential scams that a consumer can face when they're trying to book a trip, be it cruise or whatever. And just a recap, Charlie points out that you should be aware of a deal that appears too good to be true, that there are usually a lot of difficulties with booking that trip and the accommodations and all that. He gave us some tips on what to look out for and how to avoid being scammed, and some really valuable information. So in this segment of the interview, I'd like to have Charlie discuss with us. Okay, you booked the trip and everything's fine. Now, what do you do when you're on board that ship or you're traveling to avoid being scammed while you're on your vacation? So, Charlie?
Now, I want to take one step back and sort of put a little codicil on what we talked about earlier before you go away. There really are some good values out there. So you have to be sensitive to what's a scam and what is a legitimate good value. So for example, in the world of cruising, some of the best values are in the off-season. The period between Thanksgiving and Christmas, not a lot of people travel and the prices come down. Those are good deals and they're legitimate. The services on the ship are exactly the same. Also, there are repositioning cruises. So at the end of the summer season, all the ships that sail in Alaska in the summer come down the west coast and they're heading usually to the Caribbean through the Panama Canal. And those repositioning cruises are also very good deals. So just to add a final touch to what we talked about bad offers, there are some good offers out there. So now, with your permission, I'd like to talk about what can go wrong when you're on a trip. And I don't want to scare anybody. 99.9% of travel is fun and everybody has a good time and you come home with great memories and great photos. But there are bad guys out there. There are bad guys in our home cities and there are bad guys in the cities we visit. There's something called the hot dog trick. The hot dog trick usually happens at the airport and somebody standing next to you splashes you with mustard. He's eating a hot dog and he's got a mustard container and he splashes your shirt or your blouse or your jacket with mustard. And is extremely apologetic. And all of a sudden he's all over you and he's brushing you off. I'm so sorry. And while he's doing that, his accomplice is reaching down for your suitcase and taking it off with it. Then very quickly they both disappear and you look around and, gee, one of my suitcases is gone. So if that happens, be aware that it's a possibility. And the rule of thumb is if you're in a restaurant or you're waiting online, try to keep your suitcase between your legs so you'll feel it if somebody is trying to remove it. Sort of a cousin to that, we'll call this one 1B, that was 1A, this 1B. When you're at a luggage carousel waiting for your luggage to come off, either going on your vacation or coming home from your vacation, the bad guys know that the good stuff, your jewelry, your medications, the things you really value, are in your carry-on luggage. So you're busy watching the carousel, you're looking for your suitcase to go around, and you'll walk away from your carry-on luggage, and that gives them an opportunity to grab it. So be extra sensitive, pay more attention to the valuables that you have in your carry-on luggage than your clothing coming off on the carousel. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm just sitting there thinking of how many times I've done exactly what you just said.
Really?
Left my carry-on luggage 6-8 feet away from being ignored. That's a great thing.
And
great.
These guys can run faster than I can run.
Yes.
And probably faster than you can.
Yeah, great thing.
There's another scam that seems to happen in Paris a lot. Its nickname is the brass ring. Somebody approaches you and says, I found this gold ring and it's very valuable. I can't use it. I'd like to sell it to you. And so you buy it and then you find out that it's just a piece of brass or gold-colored metal. It's not gold. And the bottom line is, walk away. There's no such thing as somebody having found a gold ring. That's for some reason that seems popular in Paris. Let's see. There's another scam which actually happens in Paris and it happens in Rome. Remember, I said at the beginning of this conversation, there are bad people everywhere, including our hometown. So this is not putting anybody down in those two cities. But somebody will come up to you and before you know it, they'll tie a cloth bracelet around your wrist with a double knot. And then they'll ask you for money for the bracelet. And you say, I didn't ask for this. I'm not going to pay you. And the person who put it on you will try to embarrass you. They'll start screaming. They'll ask for the police, and they'll say you're trying to rip them off. That's a rip-off. And you don't owe them anything, and say, yes, let's call the police. The police are very aware of that, and they'll chase them away. But that is called the bracelet scheme, and if somebody tries to do that to you, stay away. Be very aware of people who are overly friendly, and they approach you on the street. They offer certain courtesies that you neither need nor want, just as a chance to get close to you and grab your wrist and tie that around you. Let's see. There's something called the missing cash, where a pedestrian bumps up against you and drops something. Oh, I'm sorry. So you're trying to be a concerned, kind citizen. You pick it up, and you find that it's a whole package of banknotes. And what you're really picking up is a bag full of trouble. Because as soon as you hand it to them, they'll say, that's not all the money I had. There's more there. What'd you do with the rest of it? And they too will try to call for the police and call for help. Hold your ground. It's a common trick. This happens a lot in Moscow. But I would suggest that you don't be afraid, do not be afraid to call somebody a crook. Walk away from it. They know what they're doing. Often the last thing they want is for the police to come along and get them involved. Because the police, just like the other schemes, the police know all about that threat. There's something called the taxi driver trick, where you give a taxi driver a larger bill, like a 50 euro note in Italy, or actually in Istanbul in this case, and the driver will drop it on the floor of the car and bend down and pick up a 5 lira note, which he's planted there already. And they do look somewhat alike. And so you'll say, but I gave you 50. And he'll say, no, here it is. You just gave me 5. And you have to call the police if that happens from your cell phone or from a Turkish phone in Istanbul. Again, the police know this old trick. And if the police come, the driver stands to lose his license. So that would be another one.
Wow, it's amazing where these people come up with these scams. It's just,
no, the most important thing is that it's not like it's not likely to happen. But if you're prepared, if you're aware that things like this can go on, then you might as well just protect yourself in that way. Let's see. I'll do one more. This is common to many, many cities. If two male travelers, two gentlemen, are in an unfamiliar city, they're liable to meet two pretty young women who invite them to a bar or a private room in a bar. And when the bill comes, it's usually inflated, much higher than they expected. The bartender says, we only take cash. We don't accept any credit cards, of course. And the doorman tells the travelers that they pay up and then leave. So the advice there is, for gentlemen, be very aware if somebody comes up to you and wants to take you to a nightclub or to some inn spot or to an art gallery. It just doesn't, if it doesn't smell right, walk away. It's not good.
yeah, just listening to these schemes you've been talking about, they seem to have a common thread that that people do something to put you off your guard and then take advantage of you and try to take your money or do something to it.
It's like a distraction. It's
Yeah.
like the mustard or the ring. They hit you with something that's a surprise, and then they just react. They expect you to react the way a good person would react,
Right.
and they're not good people.
Right.
Now, just to put a counter side to that, if you're on a trip or if you're on a cruise and you take a shore excursion from a reputable company, the likelihood is you're going to have a great time. Nobody is going to bother you. You're going to see things that you haven't seen before. You'll come home with wonderful memories. You'll have an opportunity to pick up some souvenirs. So I definitely don't want to make it sound like the whole world is evil and you should just stay home and stay in bed so you don't get hurt. That's not the case.
No, I don't think anyone should not plan a trip or a vacation because of fear of what might happen to be scammed or whatever. But I do think that, listening to you talk again, the main trick is a distraction, and then they spring something on you. So I think the advice has got to be aware of your surroundings, be cautious, don't trust strangers. I mean, like you say, you get two guys traveling, together, and also these two beautiful women come up and say, hey, let's go to a great club. Have a drink. You got to be a little suspicious of that. And I think a healthy dose of skepticism is probably a good advice.
Yeah. I just thought of another one that might be more relevant for seniors. And that's when you're going through the airport, you're getting ready to get to your gate because you're ready to fly away, and you're going through security and at the airport, and suddenly somebody sort of pushes in front of you, and he's on line ahead of you, just as you're about to go through. Well, it turns out that the guy who pushed in front of you forgot to take off his belt, didn't take off his shoes, he's got lots of metal in his pocket, so he has to go back and go through it again. In the meantime, he has an accomplice who has already passed through security on the other side, and your bags have gone through the x-ray machine, and he's having a grand time walking away with your suitcases while you're waiting there for him to get out of the way. The rule of thumb, don't let your luggage go through the scanner, even if the security people tell you push it through. Hold on to your luggage until it's clear for you to go through at that point. We're all vulnerable to
Right. That's a good tip there, that's for sure. As we're coming to the end of this podcast, I think again we have to look at everything and apply the common sense approach to things. If the deal looks too good, make sure you investigate it. There are good deals out there, but there are also deals that aren't so good. So you really should do your due diligence on that. And then when you're on your vacation, be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of people that are coming up to you and bumping into you, whatever. And obviously, we don't want to come across as the ugly Americans, but think before you offer to help somebody or do something that is out of the unexpected.
Exactly.
So I think that's how I would look at that.
Can I tell the viewers a little bit about my agency, about my business?
Go right ahead.
Is that okay? Okay. So I'm Charles Greenberg, Charlie Greenberg. My company is Your Travel Agency. And why did I name it Your Travel Agency? Because most of the travel providers and the cruise lines, in their brochures, they'll say, call us, and they give their 800 number. Call us at 1-800, and then below that it'll say, well, call your travel agency. So look at all that free publicity I'm getting. It says, call your travel agency. If you want to have a knowledgeable travel agent working for you, give me a call. Area code 760-772-5888. 760-772-5888. And thank you so much for having me.
You're quite welcome. We appreciate it. And just closing from my end, Peter, I think we'll go back to one of our golden rules. If it looks too good to be true, it's probably not true, and you probably shouldn't avail yourself of that service. So I'm going to wrap up here. And Peter, I don't know if you want to.
No, you're good. Go for it.
Thank you
All right.
very much.
Thank you.